G2A is killing the gaming industry. As a symptom of that, some developers have come out and publicly stated they would rather people pirate their game illegally than buy it through G2A, with one developer actually uploading his own game himself onto Pirate Bay because he was that desperate to discourage people from buying it legally through G2A. This all begs the question, why? Well, it all comes down to the fact that G2A and other key reselling sites provide an invaluable service to the criminal underworld, and that service is money laundering. So, in layman's terms, money laundering is when a criminal, let's call him Steve, who has a bunch of illegally obtained, easily traceable money, gives that money to Jeff, the money launderer, and then a few weeks later, Jeff gives slightly less money back to Steve, except now that money is quote-unquote clean, where it will be nearly impossible for someone to realise that that money was in fact illegally sourced. Now, before we go on any further, I would just like to say that I don't want to get sued by G2A, or maybe I do, because it would bring a huge amount of media attention to my channel, but nonetheless I want to stress the fact that technically speaking, G2A and other key reselling sites are not illegal operations. From a legal perspective, what G2A is doing is not money laundering, and is not in itself killing the gaming industry. However, they are doing a fantastic job at enabling credit card thieves and criminals to earn a boatload of money, screw over the average Joe by emptying their bank accounts, and cause a massive loss in profit to many game developers, which in turn is killing the gaming industry. And whilst it is not legally a money laundering operation, it fills the exact same function as one. Now again, how exactly is this killing the gaming industry? Well, in order to explain that, I'm going to walk you through the process of a criminal, let's call him Scumbag Steve, who was about to use a batch of stolen credit cards to turn around a nice and tidy profit. So Scumbag Steve has bought 50 stolen credit cards from the dark web with a $10,000 in all of the accounts collectively. Now he wants that money for himself, but he can't just transfer the money directly to one of his bank accounts because that would be dead easy for the banks and any law enforcement to track down. So what he does is he buys $10,000 worth of games from a legitimate site that is not a reseller, for example Humble Bundle, and then puts them up on G2A or another key reselling site for a greatly reduced price. The reason he puts them up for such a low price is because Scumbag Steve really wants to shift the keys quickly, because the longer he waits, the more likely it is that the devs will cancel them, and then he will lose some of that money. This right here, the fact many criminals are looking for a quick turnaround, is one of the reasons why the prices on key reselling sites are so low. So, let's assume Steve sells 40% of the proper retail price. He probably isn't going to sell all the keys, so let's assume Steve sells about 95%. At the end of the day, he has converted that $10,000 of stolen money into roughly $3,800, except now that $3.8k is now quote-unquote clean money, which is very hard to trace, which means he can now freely spend it on whatever he likes and can then use it to buy even more stolen credit cards and just rinse and repeat the whole process. Now, it is inevitable that most banks will realise that the credit card details have been stolen, so roughly a month after the thief makes the process, the bank traces the purchase back to the game dev and demands that they get their money back. Of course, the devs give the money back because they are legally obliged to. However, for each and every purchase they refund, the game developers are charged a transfer fee of around a few dollars, but that fee can vary wildly under certain situations. This means that for every illegally bought copy of the game the bank tracks down, the game devs don't just make no profit, but they also actually lose money on the whole transaction. This is part of the reason why this fraud-fueled economy causes such a massive loss in profit to many game developers, and when you have a smaller indie developer, that potential $100,000 gap can make the difference between an underwhelming performance and bankruptcy, which means good people lose their jobs. Now, many people raise the argument that they have bought dozens of games through G2A, yet none of them have ever been cancelled. Now, that's a very good point. However, the overwhelming majority of illegally obtained keys are never cancelled by the developers. The biggest reason why is because going around deleting keys bought by unknowing players is a PR disaster. You might remember when back in 2015, Ubisoft cancelled thousands of game keys of Far Cry 4 and the backlash from fans was overwhelming. In the end, Ubisoft had to reimburse or give legit keys back to the people whose keys were cancelled in the first place, which cost the company a boatload of money. This served as a warning to game developers everywhere that cancelling illegal keys is actually a terrible idea. The other main reason why is simply a lot of smaller indie developers don't have the resources to track down the illegal keys. For big companies this is less of a problem, but if you have 5 employees and task one of them with tracking down these illegal keys full time, that means your team working on the next game has lost 20% of its productivity. Often for indie devs, the task of tracking down illegal keys is too large a task to handle. Ultimately, who is the real victim of this, not legally but kind of is, money laundering scheme? Well, it's the average Joe who is having their credit card stolen and bank account emptied. Also, I would like to stress that not all keys on G2A are illegally sourced. Some keys are bought legitimately in bulk and then resold with the buyer's own money. But that being said, a significant number of keys resold are in fact bought with stolen credit cards. Every time you buy a stolen key for half the price, some innocent old lady or businessman or housewife or bank is charged the cover price. Now it's true, many transactions by thieves are in fact reimbursed, so often these people get that money back into their accounts eventually, but by using key reselling sites just like G2A, you are encouraging the criminals to do that more, to steal from people's bank accounts more often, because sites like G2A and the average gamer desperate for a bargain make it so damn easy to launder the money. And if any of you have ever had your house burgled or your money stolen, I'm sure you know it is a shitty, stressful, traumatic experience that only a monster of a human being would willingly put another person through. And when people buy keys through websites like G2A, they make acts of thievery more common, which in turn causes more pain and suffering to the average Joe somewhere in the world. When you see an offer that is too good to be true on G2A, there is a very good chance it is. Because someone, somewhere, who has never done anything wrong to you is often the one who pays for that bargain. And if after learning that using this site is not only putting money directly into the pockets of criminals, but also putting some housewife somewhere through a huge amount of stress, but also crippling the industry we all know and love, if after watching this video and learning that fact, you ever use G2A or other key reselling sites ever again, you are a despicable human being. So if you genuinely want to make a difference, if you want to decrease the amount of fraud in the world, please like this video and share it with whoever you think would listen. For every person who stops using G2A and other key reselling sites, the world gets just that little bit brighter. Anyway, thanks for watching, please do subscribe and I will see you guys in the next one.